5 detainees released out of Gitmo in the last 2 weeks. The president says more to come as he promises to close that detention facility. His pledge raising new concerns about how the U.S. should handle the remaining prisoners, many of whom are considered among the most dangerous terrorists in the world. Our chief intelligence correspondent, Catherine Herridge, on that story in Washington. How do the numbers at the moment break down at Gitmo, Catherine?
Well, Bill, of the remaining 122 detainees, more than two-thirds come from Yemen, a country so unstable that the administration is pursuing other options for transfer. Of the rest, 50 are approved for release. Another 39 are considered too dangerous to release, but there is not enough admissible evidence to prosecute them in military courts. And another 32 are recommended for trials at the military base. And among those is an operative called Hambali, who was held in the CIA secret prisons. He's described as the Osama bin Laden of Southeast Asia, and he's linked to at least 3 plots, including the 2003 Marriott hotel bombing in Indonesia, which killed 12 and injured another 150. And among them was an injured American citizen who told us at a news conference at Guantanamo that she contracted HIV after a blood transfusion for her injuries at the hotel. So this is a good example of the ripple effect of these terrorist attacks.
What's the argument for bringing the remaining detainees to the U.S.?
Well, a former military prosecutor at the commissions says some of the remaining detainees, they are dangerous, but really when you look at the evidence, it's a pretty mixed bag. There's no argument that there's sufficient evidence to pursue cases against the self-described architect of the attacks, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and a senior al-Qaeda facilitator, Abu Zubaydah. Both were held in the CIA prisons, but there are lesser players who don't fall into this kind of worst of the worst category, he says.
So in some cases, it's not a lack of evidence, it's a constraint on the use of that evidence. In other cases, it really is a lack of sufficient evidence. So it's kind of a mixed bag on the reason for why these cases can't be prosecuted.
Critics argue that Guantanamo, despite what the president says, when you look at the jihadi forums, it really isn't a main issue in the propaganda that they're using now. And they also argue that when you move these detainees to the United States, you're simply moving the problem. It's just a matter of changing the zip code.
Well, Catherine, thank you. Catherine Herridge in
You're welcome.
Washington.